morning, good morning. I said good morning to you. I said good morning to you. Salute. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Freedom marchers, freedom family, freedom lovers, and freedom fighters. Snapzilla Gorillas in the building. AKA Tyrant's Bane. AKA The Definition. Hollering at y'all with this live stream where we're going to get in some interesting information in this morning's paper. In this morning's paper, we're going to talk about Donald J. Trump stopping funding toward mRNA craccine development. Now, I got to be careful, I believe. Back in the Modelo 19 days, Anarchy Television, salute to you. Good morning, brother. Make sure you drop your link at some point. Y'all go check out Anarchy Television if y'all get a chance. Back in the Modelo 19 days, there were certain things we could not talk about. And one of those things was craccine. Except craccine started with a V. So you couldn't talk about craccine with a V back in the day. Black Spring with Autumn, salute to you. Good morning. You could not talk about craccine with a V back in the day. And or what Black Spring with Autumn kind of coined, the hokey pokey. Could not talk about the hokey pokey back in the day. So be careful if I use, be careful. Just bear with me if I'm using code words to discuss this here situation. Now, it's been a couple years. I don't know if they're still on that bullshit, but I'm just going to take precautions. So, we got hokey pokey, we got the jab, we got craccine. Never really had an issue with mRNA, so we'll stick with that. But yes, the Trump administration has decided no longer to fund mRNA development. And, according to Robert F. Kennedy, right, the health advisor, or the health secretary, the United States health secretary, he wanted to focus funding on more established and safer, keyword for me being safer, hokey pokeys, okay? Like the traditional flu craccine, all these other craccines they make you take, right? That he says is safer, but I beg to differ. But we'll get into that. So that's what happened, right? And these things were being developed by Pfizer and other companies, right? So this is when I tell you guys that the government doesn't produce anything, I actually meant that, because the organizations that were developing these craccines and all that other shit were private organizations, private companies, private corporations, right? So what they do is they lobby with the politicians, right? They lobby with the politicians. They lobby with your representatives. They lobby with the executives to do things the way they want them done, right? So of course, obviously, for a good amount of time throughout the decades, the big pharma, a special interest group, has been lobbying with the government in order to enrich themselves. So what they do is, they find all kinds of ways to get big pharma paid for keeping people sick, right? That's just the bottom line to it. Big pharma does not thrive unless people are sick. Big medicine does not thrive unless people are sick. And so, what they do is they develop these medications, they develop these craccines, they do all these things in order to give us the impression that they are trying to keep America healthy. When in reality, they're not very interested in keeping Americans healthy. Otherwise, they would not be telling people that if you have diabetes, type 2 diabetes, it's okay to eat oatmeal. Right? They wouldn't tell you that. They wouldn't tell you to eat oatmeal. Oh no, it's okay to eat a couple Oreos. It's okay to eat a big ass bowl of cereal because it has grain and bran in it. They wouldn't tell you that nonsense, right? They'll tell you the truth. They will tell you, well, at the end of the day, oatmeal is high on the glycemic index, and it eventually breaks down to sugar. There's not much stopping it from spiking your blood sugar, right? It's not like, especially if you soak the oatmeal and you heat it up, all you're doing is breaking down all the cellulose that locks that sugar in and makes it more available to your body. But they're not going to tell you that. That's the truth, though. Anyway, so in regards to this craccine, the mRNA, which is not really a craccine, right? What it is messenger RNA that they have developed so that when they administer it to you, this thing goes into your cells, right? And because your DNA in the nucleus of your cells, they send out mRNA in and of itself. So every single human cell, RNA, DNA, and RNA sends out messenger RNA to certain components of your cells in the cytoplasm and gives them instructions to build things and to create things that your body needs. Well, what this does, what mRNA does, it goes into the cell. So they say, this is what they tell you it does, right? What they tell you it does, it goes into the cell and it sends its own message, right? It carries a message for the ribosomes and all these different things within the cytoplasm to build shit, right? So when it came to Modelo 19, they used mRNA to create the spike proteins for your body to attack, right? But that's what they did with the mRNA. So the mRNA had instructions on it for your cells to build the amino acid profile to create these spike proteins. The spike proteins that they say attach to the A2 receptors in certain organs, which is why it created such a problem for people, right? That's why it created heart problems. That's why it created lung problems. That's why it created kidney problems, because all these organs have A2 receptors, which the Modelo 19 targeted. It specifically targeted A2 receptors, and that's what they built the spike proteins for. Except there was a problem with these with these spike proteins. The problem with the spike proteins was that, well, they were still attaching the A2 receptors and creating problems in creating cytokine storms within the body. Cytokines are an immune response to foreign invasion. And if you have all these spike proteins all over the place, and they're attaching to all these A2 receptors in your lungs and in your heart, right? What ends up happening is, well, your body will overload that organ with the cytokines, and they call it a cytokine storm. So these spike proteins were triggering an autoimmune response that would end up killing people and making them sick, even in the brain. So this would happen in the brain as well. It would create blood clots. These spike proteins in and of themselves were causing more problems. If you look at the research, if you look at the data, these spike proteins all by themselves, without the body, the little circle that the spike proteins were attached to with the real Modelo 19, they were creating more problems than the sickness they were developed to prevent or to minimize or to mitigate, right? Because now the whole idea is, well, we don't create craccines to prevent sickness. We create craccines to minimize the damage. We don't. But all this time, they have been selling craccines as a preventative measure. But now that the mRNA craccine that created the spike proteins did not work out that well, because people were still getting sick. People were still contracting the disease. Because remember how the timeline went? At first, before they started rolling out the craccine, they said, oh, well, it's going to stop this. It's going to prevent that. Right? This is what the CDC director said at the time. She said, yeah, we need this to stop. We need this to stop the spread. People need to get this craccine so that people won't, so you don't get sick, so you don't pass the sickness along. So, and they sold it as a way, if you get the craccine, it'll stop you from spreading it to a sick person. But if you had the craccine and someone didn't have the craccine, they can still pass the sickness to you. It makes no fucking sense whatsoever. Do you understand what I'm saying? It was a lie they sold to scare people into getting the craccine. Oh, well, if you don't get the craccine, you're going to kill your grandmama. That's the same thing they told y'all about face flags. Somebody says I'm wrong. Tell me what the right thing is. But you listen to the news, and now what you're saying. Tell me what the truth is. And you don't know what you're talking about. Tell me what I'm talking about. I don't know what I'm talking about. Tell me what the truth is. See, I love how y'all come in here. Y'all tell me that I'm wrong, but you can't tell me what I'm wrong about. You're a blockimist. I don't give a fuck about what you're talking about. See, y'all come in here, y'all tell me I'm wrong, but you can't tell me what I'm wrong about. This guy said he's some type of biochemist. I don't give a fuck what you are. That don't mean shit. Oh, I'm supposed to appeal to the expert now. Oh, the expert came. He says I'm wrong. No, I don't care that you're a biochemist, because you're not telling me what I'm wrong about. You're just telling me I'm wrong and that you're a biochemist. That is known as that's a fallacy known as appeal to an expert or appeal to authority. Telling someone they're wrong because you're a fucking doctor or you're a biochemist is not proven argument. Tell me where I'm wrong at. Tell mRNA craccines, they are messenger RNA technology that goes into the cells and tells your cells to build an amino acid profile to create things like the spike proteins. You're telling me I'm wrong about that? You have no idea what the fuck you're talking about. See, y'all, I'll make y'all look stupid every time you come in here and try to tell me I'm wrong or I'm lying. Dude is a bum. Okay, I'll be a bum. Your mother must love bums then, because she's been sucking me off all her life. I might be your daddy, to tell you the truth. So your daddy's a bum. Anyway, it's all good. I ain't mad. I just know how to talk shit. See, you think I'm mad, but really what I'm doing is I'm exposing your ignorance. You come in here and you're telling me everything about what I'm, except for what I'm wrong about. And I love it, because people can see it. What's a craccine? Well, take craccine, take the C out and put a V in there. And that's what a craccine is, because I can't say the word or else they'll try to hit me with a strike, because I'm talking about the V. The bottom line is they created the spike proteins, right, to go into your bloodstream and to go in all these. It's not supposed to go in your bloodstream, but that's what they ended up doing, right? It was supposed to be subcutaneous, a subcutaneous injection, right, in the muscle, and it wasn't supposed to enter the bloodstream, right? It was supposed to go into the cells. Your cells builds these spike proteins, and your body attacks it. Now it knows what to attack. Okay, as soon as I see this, I'm going to attack it, and I'm going to destroy it. That's what the mRNA technology they developed to prevent Modelo 19 was supposed to do. That's what it was supposed to do. But these spike proteins ended up proliferating into the human body, doing it correctly, so it ended up in the bloodstream almost immediately. This is what happened, biochemist. But you're not telling me where I'm wrong at. He's so mad. I can't believe it. Y'all think you really think I'm mad? That's adorable. Anyway, so the spike proteins were developed, right? First they said, oh well, it's going to stop you from getting sick, it's going to stop you from contracting it. But then once they started rolling it out and people were still getting sick, they said, oh well, it's just going to minimize the sickness. It's just, oh well, you need it. If you don't take it, you're going to spread it to someone else. Oh well, it just minimizes the hospitalizations. It minimizes the seriousness of the Modelo 19. That's what they told you. But when it started making people sick, when it started creating these blood clots, because listen, let me tell y'all, go to Dr. John Campbell. He's a real expert I can trust, and has done all the research, and has spoken to whistleblowers. He's spoken to these doctors. He's spoken to these coroners, right? Coroners that were getting people who had the mRNA that have died, and they were pulling out blood clots that shaped like arteries that were so big and so rigid that like nothing they've ever seen before. Go check it out, Dr. John Campbell. He'll give you so much information has come from Dr. John Campbell from different areas and different experts. He's not just saying, oh, believe me because I'm a doctor, when in reality he's a nurse practitioner. But he knows how to do the research. He knows how to read, just like I do. See, you don't need to be a biochemist to understand biochemistry if you know how to read and comprehend, and you know how to do research, and you know how to look things up. So go check out Dr. John Campbell. He has a YouTube channel, and he has done extensive research. He has spoken to people. Yeah, the rabbit hole gets deep. But anyway, so people who were getting these craccines, the mRNA, well, they were developing blood clots. They were getting those heart conditions, right? The ones where, God damn it, the wall of the heart wasn't, I forgot what it's called. God dang, it's been so long since I talked about it. But y'all know what I'm talking about, where the muscle lining of your heart would get inflamed. They're creating all kind of issues. Proven issues that you can actually go look up, and that is public knowledge. But it is what it is. But that is what happened. But who funded the development of the mRNA technology, which is not really a craccine. It's something else. It's biohacking. That's what it is. mRNA technology is biohacking technology. It's not vaccine. Oops, I said the V word. It's not craccine technology. It's not really crack. It's not really that. It's software, as they refer to it. They refer to it themselves as software. They refer to it essentially as biohacking, because that's what it's doing, right? It's hacking your cells to create things. That's what mRNA does. But the biochemist will probably tell you different. No, he won't tell you different. He'll just tell you I'm wrong. He won't tell you what it actually is if I'm wrong. But anyway, I see the reason I'm highlighting this, guys, because you have to be careful. When people try to come after what you're saying, you're trying to give out information. And look, don't take my word for it. Go do the fact checking. Go look all this stuff up. All these things are available to you, just like I did. But the person who funded all these things to begin with, in the form of Operation Warp Speed, was Donald Trump. Donald Trump was the one who actually wanted the process accelerated. Because typically, when you create these things, right, when you create a new medical technology, you have to give it time to go through the scientific method. You have to put it through the scientific method rigorously. It takes 5 to 10 to 12, 15 years to put a new hokey pokey on the market. And usually it's new hokey pokeys, new craccines. They are built off of generally existing medical technology already. So what they do is they find a way, okay, this worked out pretty well. Let's build on it. Let's put what we have out now, and we'll build on it further. We'll do further development. We'll do further research. We'll test it more. The mRNA technology did not go through the rigorous scientific method and the scientific tests before they put it out. Donald Trump said, nah, we can't wait on that. We need this shit now. Because it took, what, 9 months? It took him 9 months to create this mRNA technology specifically to combat Modelo 19. It took him 9 months. And Donald Trump wanted that shit available immediately, right? But see, they were already working on the mRNA technology specifically for Modelo 19 when Modelo 19 came out. When Modelo 19, by the time Modelo 19 was introduced to the public, they were already working on this mRNA technology. This is also something that you can look up. When Wuhan released it, which is also something you can look up and discover and fact check for, it came out that they were already working on the Modelo 19 mRNA technology. Because this is what they do. They develop, when they develop these warfare germs, right? What they call, and they call it, when they weaponize, I forgot what the term is, gain of function. When they do the gain of function on these germs, they don't just make it able to attack, right? They don't just create it to use it as a weapon. No, they develop an antidote, or they develop hokey pokeys for it, or they develop a cure for it, so that they can be prepared to introduce that cure in order to prevent as much damage as possible. So when they're developing this thing, they're also developing the mRNA technology. They're also developing the monoclonal antibodies for these things. So monoclonal antibodies, right? Remember the monoclonal antibodies? The ones they did not want. They didn't want to give the monoclonal antibodies out. There were states that were trying to get more monoclonal antibodies, and they did not want to give it to them. I don't know if y'all remember that in Florida. Governor, what's the name, was making monoclonal antibodies available to people that were getting sick with Modelo 19, as opposed to the mRNA technology. The monoclonal antibodies were actually making people feel better and actually making them better within days of administration. And it was very successful. Remember when Biden got mad and stopped giving them monoclonal antibodies? The monoclonal antibodies were proven to work. If you look at if you look at the news, if you look at the information that's out there, right? But Donald Trump pushed this mRNA technology. He funded it. He gave the money to the big pharma. And you remember when everybody was going on to Robin Hood? See, this is the game they play with y'all. This is the game they play. They got the funding, right? Pfizer, Moderna, AstraZeneca. They got all this funding. And all of a sudden, this stuff appeared on Robin Hood. Remember Robin Hood? Remember how hot that was? People were buying stocks in Moderna and making money. People were flooding Robin Hood and other stock software, right? And they were investment software, and they were putting all this money into Pfizer and Moderna. But then remember what happened with Pfizer? And Pfizer started to tank. See, these are the games they play with y'all. But nonetheless, Donald Trump put up the funding for these mRNA technology. Put up the funding, not just for the mRNA, but also for the monoclonal antibodies and for the development of ivermectin, right? And the hydrochloroquine. All these different things that they discovered worked well against Modelo 19. But then, of course, see, again, these are the games they play with y'all. Yes, Governor DeSantis, thank you. Governor DeSantis. These are the games they play. Because they can't just make it one thing or people will resist it. They have to give you all these different options. But it's the options they want you to choose from, if you get my meaning. So the monoclonal antibodies, okay, what you're riding my ass for? It's fucking raining, ass hat. The monoclonal antibodies, ivermectin, mRNA technology, all these different things. The monoclonal antibodies and the ivermectin worked the best, but you had to be sick already. Well, they presented mRNA technology as an option to stop you from getting sick. Oh, well, you won't contract it if you get the mRNA. But guess what happened? People contracted it anyway. And then they had to get a booster shot. Y'all remember that? The booster shots? Oh, well, you got to get a second booster and a third booster every 6 months. Because the protection, the so-called protection of these things only lasted 6 months. Whereas contracting the Modelo 19 itself, well, they don't know when that stops protecting you because it hadn't been out long enough, the Modelo 19, for them to understand it. Because people who contracted mRNA, contracted the Modelo 19, like myself, and didn't have any type of preventative anything. I think I had Modelo 19 like 3-4 times, right? But you know, so they said. But the antibodies for the actual getting the actual Modelo was much stronger, and they lasted much longer than the mRNA crap, right? So why is it that they're pulling funding right now? For what reason? It's been what? 2 years? 2-3 years. Not even 2 or 3 years. Like, yeah, 3 or 4 years since Modelo 19 was really an issue. And then every now and then they'll tell you, oh, look, there's a new mutant. Oh, it mutated again. They talking about a mutant, another mutated version of Modelo 19 right now. I forgot what it's called. But there's a new one. But it's nothing, right? Modelo 19 was so weak that now it's endemic. It's endemic within the human body. It's probably within you right now. And it's doing things that you don't understand. But see, this thing was developed in a lab. So God knows what it can do. But we know that it didn't work out like they wanted it to. All these deaths that they attributed to Modelo 19, all the deaths that they attributed to it amounted to about 6%. Right? 6% of the deaths they attributed to it were actually from Modelo 19 alone. All the other deaths had other factors involved, like, oh, I don't know, people getting decapitated in motorcycle accidents, people getting shot in the face. Let's see, people dying from conditions they already were about to die from. And they told you what? They told you that if you died with Modelo 19 and you didn't die from Modelo 19, they're still going to consider that a Modelo 19 death. All these things they're doing in your face. Yes, the juicy juice boost. They're doing all this in your face. They're playing in your face. They're telling you, oh, you're going to kill your grandmama if you don't wear your face flag. If you don't social distance, you're going to kill your grandmama. All these things, the six feet, the face flag, they made that shit up. They told you to your face. Oh yeah, you know, we just arbitrarily made up the 6 meters, the 6 feet. Yeah, we just said that. It's not. We don't know we don't really know how far you have to distance yourself. We just made up 6 feet. They made this shit up, y'all. The face flag, they made that shit up. They didn't do any testing, extensive testing and development. They didn't do any of that. They told you a painter's mask was going to stop you from contracting and spreading the Modelo 19. That's what they told y'all. That's what they told you. They told you a cotton sleeve. Y'all remember them sleeves that they came out with? Well, they were already around. The neck gaiters. People wearing neck gaiters. Oh, yeah, that's fine. But you can smell somebody's breath through them damn things. You smell their breath, which, if it stank, has all kind of bacteria all up and through that. But viruses are smaller than bacteria. And they were getting, so if the bacteria is getting through, well, so is the goddamn virus. But they tell you, oh yeah, this will stop it. Yeah, wear this on your face. To see how compliant and obedient you're going to be. Where's the biochemist, y'all? Is he here? He's going to say, oh, you're wrong. But what did I do? When all this was developing, I showed y'all the proof that the face flags don't work. I gave you guys the data. I told you guys 90-something% of the people hospitalized with Modelo 19 always wore a face flag. I told y'all that. I gave this was data from these hospitals. 94% of those who were hospitalized with Modelo 19 always wore a face flag. Whereas 3% of those hospitalized with Modelo 19 never wore a face flag. They played in our face for 2 years with this Modelo 19 stuff. In our face. And what happens? They sweep it under the rug and everybody forgets about it and goes on about their day. And they still trust government. Y'all still will wake up every morning and thank God that the government is here to keep you safe. But they played in your face for 2 years until they finally told you that the Modelo 19 was created in a lab and got released on accident. It was an accidental leak. This is what they told you. They finally told you that after they done created all these problems. After they fucked off the economy. After they fucked off all these jobs. After they destroyed lives. And after so many children deleted themselves due to the depression and stress and having to be cooped up in the house and not being able to hang out with their friends and all that good stuff. My nephew passed away during that period. So many children passed away. I worked at schools when this was going on. I was still working for a good little period. All the kids were going. And then I started hearing about how children were deleting themselves and how the rise in self-deletions of children was like nothing we've ever seen. Drug use went up. Spousal abuse went up. Self-deletion of all ages rose. The fear-mongering during this period was like none we've ever seen in history. And it was only able to happen because so many people put trust in the government. And when there was resistance, what did they do? Well, they pulled out the National Guard. Remember that? They told you to shelter in place. They told you if you left the house, you'll get a fine. If you leave the house without a face flag, oh yeah, we're going to fine you. All those states. They played in your face. I appreciate it, beloved air. I appreciate that. No, they played in our faces. And from the very beginning, I was one of the few that were out here telling y'all what was what. But I was just some guy ranting in a truck or sitting in front of my computer showing you guys the data. Telling the information. I gave you guys some education about viruses. It wasn't just me. It was my sister, my queen sister, Black Spring with Autumn, Anarchy Television, Derek C. Williams. There were a few of us. And channel after channel got knocked down. Like my brother Derek C. Williams, who refused to use code words, who refused to say craccine and say and try to, stop the algorithm from picking them up so they can. I used the code words. And I was like, man, I understand. You want to be as honest and real about it as possible, but you're still being honest and real. You're giving the information about the same shit. You're just using code words so they don't knock your channel down, so that you can continue to give out the information. Some channels refuse to do that. Respect to them. It is what it is. This is what they did. They played in our faces. They will continue to play in our faces. And I'm quite nervous about why they're talking about this right now and why Donald Trump is deciding to pull the funding now. It makes me very curious because they always do things for a reason. They're making something out of it. They're making something out of the fact that Robert F. Kennedy is saying, no, we're going to stop. We're going to stop funding mRNA technology. You're on your own, Moderna. You're on your own, Pfizer. That's one thing we have to understand, is that even though that the government funds these, funds big pharma, they fund big medicine, so do we though. We don't get this so-called free healthcare, even though the government pays for it. And if the government's paying for it, then that means we're paying for it because the government gets the money from us. But then they turn around and they make you pay these highly inflated prices for the treatment, for the medication. You go to the doctor, you go to the hospital and get a Tylenol, they'll charge you $8,000. Well, not $8,000. They'll charge you like $50 a pill. When you can go to the pharmacy at Target and get it over the counter and get a whole bottle for $8. They play games in your faces all the time. And the reason this is because the government regulates and funds these hospitals. And Big Pharma has a monopoly on your sickness. And because Big Pharma has a monopoly on your sickness, and they have a monopoly on the resources and the supplies that they use to mitigate or to maintain your sickness, they get to charge you whatever you want when you go into their domain. Their domain is the hospital. And what does the government do to regulate the price gap in the hospitals? They don't do a damn thing. They don't do nothing because, well, they benefit from it. So my question would be, and yet, yes, and this is the reason. Because you are, let's say you go to the ER, you go get a surgery or something like that, they give you pain medication. And you're in that hospital, you pay for that pain medication. It's going to appear on your bill, or it's going to get billed to the insurance companies, which they're all tied in together. They're all together. They're all in it together. They're all in on it together. Do you think the insurance company is paying? Oh, okay, so let's say my wife had our baby, right? Now it's like $19,000. Allegedly. Supposedly it's $19,000, but when the insurance company pays for it, they pay 90%. 90%, unless you're with Kaiser or something like that. You were Kaiser, you don't get paid, you don't pay anything. But it's $19,000. So you pay $1,900. You're supposed to pay $1,900 for that birth. You really think that the insurance company is paying upwards to $17,000? No, they're probably not paying a motherfucking thing. Right? They're not paying for that. No. They're not paying that amount. The insurance company's not paying that. They're probably going to pay a highly discounted amount of that. They might pay another $3,000. Because Big Pharma and big medicine, they're gonna get their money regardless. So yeah, they might have stopped the funding for mRNA technology, but they're gonna get their money regardless. They're gonna get the money for it. It doesn't mean that they're gonna stop developing the mRNA. They're just gonna stop getting the money directly from the government. But the government is going to still end up paying for it, because they're going to continue to develop the technology. They're still going to introduce it into the world of medicine. They're just going to use investors. That's it. They're going to use investors. Those investors might be your doctor. It might be your nurse practitioner. It might be other hospital staff. It's going to be you. It's going to be you because, well, they're going to use when you have that mutual fund and that 401k, they put money into all that stuff. They're still going to get their money. They're still going to develop the technology, and they're still going to introduce it into the world. They're going to still introduce it into the world of medicine. So, after all these years, the biggest message that I received from it is that, yeah, they knew that mRNA technology that they gave you for this Modelo 19 wasn't effective, and it was not safe. Remember those terms, safe and effective? They threw those terms around a lot during the Modelo 19 pandemic. Oh, is this safe and effective? I mean, come on. They were asked these questions. They would not answer the question of whether or not it was safe or effective. The CDC director would not answer those questions. Rochelle Walensky, or whatever, I heard it, Rachel or Rochelle, some shit like that. Because she had to go in front of the Senate. Remember that? Remember all these Senate hearings and all that shit? Anthony Frosty had to go in front of the Senate. They had to do the dog and pony show with what's his name? Rand Paul. I was there for all that. What I saw was kabuki theater, as my guy, the Fullerton informer would say. Kabuki theater. Huh. So this is what we got going on. But now they have, this is the final act of the mRNA, y'all. But I have a feeling there'll be a part 2. There'll be a sequel to this stage play. Because the mRNA funding being stripped, well, that wasn't really, that was the epilogue. That was the epilogue of the episode. That was the after credit screen. That was the after credit scene. You know, the post credit scene. That's what that was. That's the post credit scene. And guess what? There's gonna be a sequel at some point. You're right, Black Spirit Autumn. There will be no consequences. There will be no consequences. No. It'll just be it'll be us fuming and whining and complaining, and them saying, "Oh, it's okay," and petting our little heads and giving us a lollipop and telling us to go on about our business. So my final question would be, okay, if we stop funding the mRNA technology, where's that money gonna go? Do we get a check? The people? Because they used our money to fund it. So we should be getting some money back, right? How about a refund for all the bullshit in the first place? Faulty technology, you know what I'm saying? Very unsafe, not effective. Are we gonna get money back? With interest? See, they sell it, they fist pump and look at you like, look at what we did. Look at what we did. We say, well, look, we saved some money on this, we saved money on that. Look what Doge did. Oh, look, we're stopping funding to mRNA technology. Like we're supposed to celebrate. What? Well, we'll celebrate when you give us our fucking money back. What? Oh, look, we saved you all this money. We saved you all that money. We stopped all this funding. Well, where is my money, motherfucker? Give me my money back. Where I need $8,000 a week. Well, not 8,000. Y'all, I mean, listen, let's break it down. Where's my money? Y'all saved this money. You stopped funding mRNA. Cash money, baby. Cash me out. But they won't do that. Remember when Doge saved all this money? They said, oh, Donald Trump is floating the idea of sending out checks to the people. And they're saying it again now. Well, where the fuck is the check? NLK Television says, we cannot rely or expect government to punish the government. Exactly. Fred Hinkle says, reparations. Bada boom, baby. Taxation is theft, and the theft that to the point of the government gun is extortion. Facts. Hey, Tara Kennedy, I'm with you. How about this? How about we stop giving money to the government altogether? Put a 7 in the chat if you want the government to stop taking our money. If you want to say fuck y'all and we keep all our money, drop a 7 in the chat. Drop a 7 because, you know, 7 is a lucky number. We get enough people to drop a 7, maybe something will happen. How about we decide where our money goes? If we want to provide services for other people, if we want to provide the hospitalizations and we want to build roads and bridges and all these things, how about we fund it ourselves? How about we do the research into the private contractors? We set up the bidding. We bid our work, right? We bid policing to different private police organizations, and we make them bid for the work, and we make them provide great service to keep the work. How about we start doing that? How about if we want to look into medical technology, how about we have a hand in that, right? We get experts in the field that are privately hired to ensure that we are getting the best medical technology possible. How about we set all that up? How about we get a say in where our money goes? How about we stop funding wars and we start funding home defense? It is a serious plan, Elsa Olsen. See, I don't like to just talk about the problems. I like to talk about the solutions as well. There are solutions. We don't need, look at the police departments. You think they don't have to provide a good service to you. They don't have to be nice. They don't have to be kind. They don't have to be courteous. Why? Because they have no competition. And they're protected by qualified immunity. But if we privatized policing, guess what? There would be competition, and they would have to provide great services. The civilians, right? There'll be a civilian committee to determine whether or not we hire or don't hire. Everyone gets a say. Everyone gets a say. So let's say you have a guy in your community or on the outskirts of the community. He don't want nothing to do with that private police that you guys hired. They won't service him. Easy. We will not service your property. We won't patrol near your property. If you call us, we won't come to you. Easy as pie. Because the guy feels like, well, I can protect myself. I am my first line of defense. So I won't pay for the police to patrol, but I'll pay for them to do the investigation. I'll pay for them to come clean up the body. I'll pay them to cart that motherfucker away. You choose what part of the system you want to participate in, and you fund that. That's the fairest way to do it. D-Man says we can't decide if a man with a pennies can be a woman, and what you are saying is starting another government. No, it's not another government. It's not another government. No, it's not. It's called volunteerism. It's not another government. It's volunteerism. So you choose whether or not you want to be the subject of a government or not. What you do is you break everything down into smaller communities, or people that might not want to be a part of a community. They might want to go off and be a woodsman and mind their own goddamn business. The government won't affect him. But if you have people within a community that want to start their own small government and mind their own damn business, that's their choice. What I'm talking about is freedom. Freedom of choice. You get to choose whether or not you want government rulership. You get to choose whether or not you want a leader. You get to choose whether or not you want a president. It is a legit plan, Elsa Olsen. See, can you just pay a laborer to dig a hole and not dispose of what I... Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. If you have an intruder and you have to murk them, and it's a legit thing. Yeah. Hold on, guys. Anyway, you know what? I'll talk about that. I'll talk about that later on, guys. I'll talk about my political party I want to start that I've been talking about. I talked about it a couple years ago. Now I'm going to bring it back up again. But we're going to get into that. Much love. Like, share, subscribe. Coming through. I got to get to work. And we're going to keep marching forward toward freedom. Peace. Look out for that next video.